Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on February, good question, 8th, 2023, at approximately 4:59. Now, I returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Okay, now I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the ones I personally use on a day to day level, and the philosophies of life I talk about are the exact same philosophies I personally live by. Now, with that in mind, before I get into things, first and foremost, welcome one and all. We have Eternity in the house with the gold. Kimberly comes in second with the silver. And Adam walks through the door with the bronze. And we have coming through the door here with honorable mention is JCL. So welcome, guys. Now, as requested, we are here to talk about ghosts. Where are they? What are they? Where do they come from? And where do they go? Okay. Now, do understand something very important here. Christine, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Okay. Looks like the chat room is going to be jumping, so do me a really big favor. If you've got a question, whether it's on the topic we're talking about, on ghosts or what have you, or anything else, do me a favor and put it all in all caps. That way I can find it. It's kind of like waving your hand so I know you're there. Okay, but let's start at the very beginning, because they say that's a very good place to start. Personally, I find starting in the middle is so much easier. Okay, so we take a look at it. What are ghosts? Well, let's start with the obvious part. Okay, from my standpoint, a person, if we think of it this way, a person driving a vehicle can get a certain number of places. Okay, if you want to get other places without causing serious problem, you get out of your vehicle and you become a pedestrian. Okay, in a corporeal form. Now, this applies to people, animals, plants, minerals, energy patterns. All of them are third dimensional. Okay, you get out of your vehicle in a corporeal body, and you will turn around and be able to get other places that you can't go with the vehicle. Okay. Hey Joe, how we doing? Glad you could join us. Uh-oh. Yeah, that would do it. Not a problem there, Joe. I'm glad you dropped in just the same. Okay, and of course, there's always the option of looking at this video after it's over, because if I'm right, the elimination chamber should run a good 3 hours, and yeah, we won't be on the air that long. Okay, but you get out of the body, out of the car, into a physical body. There are places you can go. Now, every single thing that is living, okay, has a soul. Every single one of them, no matter whether you can physically see them or not, are third dimensional. Okay, so you get certain places in a physical body. Now you desire to go somewhere else. That's when you leave your body in what many people call astral travel, and you can get other places. Okay, so then this is the other side of it. Hey Christine, I don't think I saw you come in, and if I did, welcome anyway. Hey Philip, how you doing? Oh, isn't that always the nice part? Philip's just letting us know that the meditation he's working with does bring his heart rate down and his blood pressure. This is an excellent thing. Quite honestly, I found the same issue myself when I was having serious problems a little while ago. Okay, now, that is when you still have a physical body that you are connected to. Okay, it's called astral travel. The second that physical body drops, now you become a ghost. Now you become a non-corporeal, and there's a lot of things that can be done there, some of which you may find morally reprehensible, some of which you may not. Okay, now, that said, okay, are ghosts evil or are ghosts good? No, now that we covered that. Or yes, one of the two. Okay, so we have a situation here. Okay, and by the way, before I go any further on this, guys, absolutely do me a favor, and accept my thanks for your patiently waiting for me. I noticed when I first got in here, that the first one was like when Eternity got into the room, she was 40 minutes ahead of us. Remember what I said about your guys' choices of topics are really bang on the money. And I do appreciate the participation in that. We've already got 9 people in the chat room. Now, with a little bit of luck, we'll break the 28 mark. Okay, and I'll keep you posted on that as I can. Okay, with respect to that, if you like the stream, do give us a thumbs up, do subscribe to the channel, and absolutely share with everybody you know. That would be muchly appreciated. Okay, now, a ghost is simply the energy or the soul, if you will, without an attachment to the physical world. Okay, that's the long and the short of it. The reason a ghost can travel through objects, through physical objects, is frankly because of the fact that a ghost does not have the lower vibratory rate, so it can slip between the different molecules. Okay, that's how that works. Now, when we're dealing with ghosts, okay, many times now, most ghosts, when they pass over, they're ready to go to the other side. Now, the white light that you're seeing to start with, okay, that is a transition between the nether realm and the physical one. Okay. This is why you're told, go into the light. It is not something to fear, although we keep getting told you gotta fear death, which I never understood it. The reality of it, from my standpoint, is pretty simple. Okay, you take a look at the situation. You go, okay, is a ghost going to physically harm you? Honestly, the massive majority of them don't. What you may not be aware of is the amount of energy it requires to actually bridge the gap between the netherworld and this one, or to bridge the gap of what I call the veil. Okay, that's that sort of, if you will, impromptu barrier. That kind of impromptu barrier between this world and the next. So ultimately, a ghost is the soul without a physical attachment. Okay, and yes, for those of you that are worried about it, when you pass away, if you choose to go through the light, you win there. The majority of time, you will run into people that are, your loved ones have gone on before. Loved ones can be people, pets. Ultimately, Philip, yes, you could call them disembodied people. Okay, disembodied people, free spirits, there's a lot of ways you can phrase it. Sometimes. Okay, sometimes, now do understand, I consider all life to be people. So for me, yes, a ghost is simply another person. Whether its last incarnation was human, off-worlder, ancient race, animal, plant, mineral, energy pattern, doesn't matter. Okay. They are all different types of people. Okay. Well, when you take a look at pets, realistically, and just about any pet owner will tell you this, pets are fuzzy little kids, quite often four-legged. And that's just the reality behind it. So for those of you that are pet lovers that have been told, no, pets don't go to the same place, you were apparently told that by somebody that didn't end up in the same place I did. Because I'll tell you, almost every time I pass away, I end up going to this place, and there are plants and animals that are all interacting with each other that come from all over the place. Malu, glad to see you. The thing that's always an interesting setup. Okay, just looking here, Malu. And again, for you guys that have a question, do please put it in all caps. It makes it far easier to find. But okay. Yeah, Malu's just said, I'm still dreaming of my dad. He came to me dead. Well, there we go. I'm going out to my office, get some clothes and a shower, and see a movie. But Dad, I burned your clothes. And then she continues, still planning the fire. But the dream last night, my dad missed him. Well, here's the catch. Your dad is still hanging on. One of the things he is doing is making absolutely certain, from your standpoint, that he's making certain you've landed on your feet. Okay, and by the way, before you jump on that, many people I know are told this. Okay, before you jump on that, no, you're still dreaming of him, you're still feeling attached to him, does not, in any functional fashion, hold him back from moving forward. Okay, it really doesn't. But the fact that you're still dreaming does tell how close you were bound to him. But I will tell you this: there is no limit for morning time, for a morning period. However, something you do have to realize is until you give yourself permission to move forward, you may run into complications in getting ahead from that end. Okay, so I do suggest that you give yourself permission to move forward. Your father's not going anywhere. Even once you release him, he will not go until he feels that you're ready. Okay, you going, I'm ready, all that does for you is opens the door so that you can move forward. Okay, but it will not hold him back in the slightest. Okay, now I just got, what do I got here? Now, just scrolling down here. YJ just said he's got a photo with a ghost in it. We always see our infant interacting with someone who wasn't there. And the family photo all made perfect sense. Well, that's just it. Somebody dies. Quite often they will not immediately jump the barrier. Quite often they will hang around, because you got to remember, it's fresh in their mind, so they've still got the emotions that they're dealing with as well. Okay. Now, Adam here has gone. Let's see. Let's scroll that down a little. No, scroll it up. Adam, Argos. Okay. Adam is just asking, are ghosts all around us, or does veil restrict how many are around us? No, the veil has no bearing at all on whether they can come and go. Okay, their own conviction, their own ability to focus is what matters, is whether they come back across. Okay, but the veil itself is a perceptual veil. It doesn't slow them down. What it does is it lets your mind believe that you cannot see them. Let me ask you this, because I know what I'm seeing in my room. Okay, but if you look in the office behind me here, okay, how many spirits do you guys actually see, and whereabouts do you see them? I know what I'm seeing. I know what I'm feeling. Okay, just kind of, if you will, a little bit of an experiment, but no, the veil does not stop anybody from getting from actually getting here. Okay, they actually have a lot of freedom to come and go once they remember how. Okay. Oh, yeah, in all fairness, Christine, you're absolutely right. In ancient Egypt, cats were absolutely known to sense the deceased. Absolutely known. Okay. And yes, dogs can feel it as well. By the way, so can most animals. They don't necessarily understand it, but they certainly feel it. And this is why I say, if you've got a pet that is a loved one, absolutely understand. And I'm not perfect by any means, but there's a lot of people that have told me, that I've heard say, "Oh, animals don't go where the humans go when they die. The soul is not human or animal, and the souls all go to the same place." Okay, it's kind of like when you take a look at, a Chevy driver or a Ford driver, one desiring to go into a restaurant. The restaurant doesn't care what car you drive as long as you leave the car outside. And even then, the restaurant itself won't care. The owner might have some issues. Yeah, in all fairness, YJ, babies can absolutely see them. The reality is that babies are taught, children, by the time they are 4 or 5 years old, adults have quite frankly interfered and taught them to ignore what they're actually seeing. Now, I was one of the lucky few in many ways, in as much as I never passed that test of forgetting that I could see them. Okay, yes, I got told a lot of the time my imagination was in overdrive, but every child that is born can see, they can see ghosts, can see spirits. Many times you'll find that a tiny child has what we refer to as an imaginary friend. What they're actually dealing with in most cases are ghosts, spirits that do not have a body anymore. Okay. And unlike the claim back in the 70s and the 80s, no, ghosts do not make all kinds of comments going backward when you run an LP backwards. However, can they come through a television? Absolutely, they can. So when we take a look at the movie, which one was it now? I forget what the name of it was, but the little girl that came through the television. Oh yeah, but the ghost came through the television. They can come through electronics very well. This is why the EMP detectors and that sort of thing. I am no technician. Okay, so that's just the reality behind it. Okay, when you're looking at this, when we're looking at the kids that are still sensing the deceased, okay, understand this is not imagination. Although once you cripple the imagination, you can cripple the ability to see. Okay, now I'm just looking up here because I know I'm missing some. I'm going to miss some if I don't. Yeah, but then, YJ, I'm just looking at this. YJ is going, I still can't get my kids to work with their higher senses. But understand something very important there, YJ. First and foremost, when we are dealing with your teaching, that is an extreme rarity. Okay, the massive number of people, okay, teach their kids that's just your imagination. Now grow up. The really sad part when you think about it is the fact that that imagination is required for enhancement. Okay. You do realize, Kimberly, that covering your TV it will absolutely stop you from seeing the TV, but doesn't actually slow them down the slightest. Sorry to pop your bubble if that's what you were hoping, but the lack of sight of it will certainly help you relax. Hey, Star, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Yeah, and I'm just looking at this. Somebody asked something here, I'm sure of it. Just reading here for half a second. See, there are many times that you may hear, there are many times that you can hear a conversation between two people, once you're attuned to it, that is. Okay, and often that will be more than one ghost. Okay, like they will be communicating between each other. And, this is not something to fear, although many of us have been taught to fear it. Okay, many people are taught if you can't see it, it's of the devil, and you should fear it because that's going to hurt you. And I will tell you, you fear too much, it can cause problems. But yeah, Star's just going, maybe with kids it's like a situational awareness. They get rewired to be ignored in favor of the physical. Okay. Ultimately, I like the way you put it. Kids are born, like the moment they're born, that is the situation. They come in with the higher senses active. Okay. But most of the time, it's active in a broad sense, so you get bits and pieces of all sorts of things. Okay. Once they start to develop, if you let them work with it, or if you encourage them to work with it, what ends up happening is they will become more refined. And the higher senses, that pocket, third eye, will start refining itself into clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience. I heard the term where it comes to smell as clairosmic, but I only heard that term once. Then you've got psychometry, the ability to pick up emanations off an object. Okay. You have various different healing modalities, which is also known as mind over body. Mind over matter is the ability to move objects with your mind. Now, do understand, this is a key factor when we're dealing with ghosts. They no longer have a physical body. So that psychokinesis that we're talking about, the ability to move objects, that is an issue of using their soul. using that energy and just simply focusing it. You don't require a physical brain to do this. Okay. It's just that it's just an interesting situation you can be dealing with. What do we got here? I can understand that there, Christine. As far, especially if you don't know what you're up against. My mom, every time something happened of an odd system, okay, then and we will come. I'll finish that thought first. Every time that I did something that went outside the norm, you know, my mom turned around and she'd panic and she'd tell dad about it, and he'd go, "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it." His idea of taking care of it, and understand, my father apologized for this, but his way of dealing with it was take me to the military, who subsequently sent me to the MyLabs. Thank you so much for putting that in caps there, Adam. Adam's asking, can ghosts manifest themselves in paintings or needlepoint art? The answer is definitively yes. There is no question that they can do that. Okay, paintings are the easiest one, because when they take a look at a painting, they still often have the recollection, at the very least, of what that painting represents. Now, maybe they're just seeing an old man on a swing. Maybe the ghost manifesting through that picture is a little girl. There is no problem there. Okay, they are simply okay. They are simply turning around and going, okay, I can recognize that. People will realize this is a person. I'm going to work with that. Okay. Now, just going back up here a bit. Yeah, and quite often, Kimberly, because we got to remember that when we're dealing with heritage, the cellular bond, the cellular form, carries what is called cellular memory. So it stands to reason that if one parent had manifested it and worked with it, and they accepted it and let the other children feel it, it's going to carry down the road. Okay, it's going to carry on without a problem. Okay, the thing is, if you've got somebody that's just showing mild experience, okay, then they too will develop it much more strongly. And here's the real kicker to it: in corporeal form, if you have worked with your senses and you pass away, you take that memory of the higher senses with you. Okay, net result, once you yourself are in ghost form, you'll find it far easier to reach back across and affect the physical world. Now, that one, YJ, I'm gonna have to step back on that word. I can tell you there are radio frequencies that are easier to manage for them to pick up or to work with than other ones. But you're going to have to ask somebody that actually works with these electronic instruments, okay, in order to find out what that frequency is. Okay. I just don't know myself what that frequency is. Okay. I can tell you that there is, I think, like Chad from Chad Smith podcast. I believe he's got connections, as I believe so does Nathan. Okay, Nathan out of the Quantum Show. Let me just see if I've got what I require here. YouTube information. That's what I need. So we take that and we move it up here out of the way. And we come down and we go, here's Nathan. Here's the link for Nathan's. Okay. And the link for Nathan's show is right about there. And then let me grab Chad's. These two people have, as far as I understand it, both have connections in the field of what they call ghost hunting. Okay, they would be the ones to talk to. Okay, so I mean that's the first thing that we look at. But this idea that people use about you've got to, like with the show, the Ghostbusters, great movie, thoroughly enjoyed it. Okay, but is it one of these movies that represents what's going on? The answer is frankly no, because you cannot hold a ghost in a mechanical construct. Okay, and by the way, the neat little idea that you can set up a magnetic field to stop them is kind of like trying to do a border crossing for a disease. Doesn't work as well as you might like. Okay, but ghosts are simply another extended life. It's just another physical manifestation of a life form. Okay, and that's the big factor to it. So do they exist? Absolutely. Quite honestly, Star, where it comes to portals, okay, portals can be open and closed. And that in that aspect is what was the term you used? Is that relevant? The answer is yes. When a portal is opened, it makes it easier for non-corporeals to come across. Okay. And yes, I will tell you this as well. It's also easier for them to get across at a gravesite, not necessarily at theirs. But if you go into a graveyard, it's far easier for them because there is so much belief over there of people going in there that the belief that the spirit can come through over there has become a physical reality. Okay. Can you force a ghost into the physical world again, like draw them back onto this side of the veil? That can absolutely be done. But I caution you, forcing a ghost onto this side of the world is not likely to make friends. Okay. That depends. What do you have in the bottle that you want him to crawl into? The neat thing about, can you put a genie in a bottle? That depends on who you are. Technically, it boils down to this. You have to believe way more than they do. You've got to believe you can put them in there more than they believe you can't. Okay, it boils down to a battle of wills. But that being said, is it possible to put a gin in a bottle? Technically, the answer is yes. Is it wise to force a gin into a bottle? Absolutely the worst thing you can do. Because when they figure out they can get out, they are going to be ticked. Okay, and that's just the sad reality. Okay, but the other side of this little question is can you make friends with a ghost? As in that fine little movie, Casper the Friendly Ghost. Okay, or the cartoon when we were kids. The answer is yes. You absolutely can have friends that are ghosts. Crikey knows I do. Of course, I'm kind of an odd example on that note. And before anybody jumps on that little idea, the thing you got to remember is much of the time when you first start witnessing ghost behavior, you're likely to sit there and question whether it's real. Okay. And from my standpoint, odds are it's very real. Okay. Yes, some people imagine things or make things up in order to make it seem like they're further ahead. Okay. But I will tell you this. Understand, for any of you that are working mediums, understanding a spirit's motivation is just as simple as understanding a person's or an animal's motivation. Okay. But you got to remember, ghosts don't, on the whole, come back across to exact revenge. Because most of the time when somebody passes away, yeah, I agree with you there, Malu. For me, friends are a pretty cut and dry issue. Like, I know what I'm dealing with. But we have to remember, most of the time when somebody passes away, they forget where they're coming from. Okay. They forget the issues and they deliberately leave it behind, by the way. They forget whatever they were upset about most of the time. Okay. Yes, there are that tiny percentage that remember their passing and hold a grudge. And they do not settle until they can find a way to reconcile it. Often it just means looking at it and talking about what they overlooked in the realm of spirituality. See, if you die believing that if you've got unfinished business, you are forced back into this world you cannot cross over. If you die believing that, then the odds are you're going to stop yourself. Okay? Like, you'll put up a barrier that stops you from crossing over. Okay, but it's not a question of it can't be done. It's a question of you've got to accept the fact that, yeah, you'll come back, but you don't have to come back this in the immediate future. Understand, 5 minutes delay is about 4 years down the road. And sometimes ghosts say they die so fast they don't get a chance to say goodbye, and that will hold them back until they get a chance to actually say goodbye to the people they left behind. Because I will tell you, once you get over there, coming back is, in most cases, not high on the list of priorities. But see, what we have to remember is, with 8 billion people on the planet, okay, and so much conflict going on, having 2 million human corporeals crossing over, on a given day would not be a shock in my eyes. Okay, but you got to remember, there's also 2.1 million being born. So you're still dealing with an increase, with a population increase. That's where it gets to be a little bit complicated. Okay. Yeah, I mean, waiting for somebody is not a bad idea entirely, Malu. Just make sure you don't put your life on hold waiting, because time for them does not run the same as it does for us. Okay, and that's just the reality behind it. Okay. This is one of the things that we've got to look at, because a ghost is not relegated to current time. Well, that's not entirely correct. Neither can they travel back in time to change things. Okay, they can certainly look back in time and get a clearer take on what part they played in their current situation. Okay, but this is something all of us go through. But when I'm talking about a couple of million people passing away, This is not counting the animals, the plants, the energy patterns that have passed away. Okay, so we are dealing with staggering amounts of traffic from the physical world up through the veil into the spiritual world. In case you hadn't noticed, my throat does seem to be a little on the tight side, but I'm not quitting at this point. Okay. Many times when you're looking at the way a spirit is, okay, you're looking at somebody that has lost their way, if you will, as far as how to get over the border or how to move forward. And again, this is where people that are working mediums can come in real handy at helping the spirits understand it's time for them to move forward. That's the biggest thing we have to look at where it comes to, where it comes to the spiritual world. Okay. Yeah. And unfortunately, I take your dad, I take a Malu that your dad was a first responder then. Or was he just a full doctor? In either event, helping somebody work through their stuff so they don't punch their own ticket is definitely a plus. No, not even in a functionally remote fashion there, Adam. Adam's just asking, does the manner in which someone passes affect whether they are returned or not? The answer is no. Okay, it also does not determine where they end up. Okay, those of you that have been taught that suicide will put you in hell. Okay, suicide is simply, it puts you in your own hell, but not the hell you've been taught. Okay, so whether you die by accident, die by suicide, die by murder, or die of old age, it doesn't matter. Okay, it has no bearing on your ability to get back across. What has the bearing is whether you, as the individual passing away, remembers that you've got that option. Okay, and yes, the more truly spiritually advanced will be able to travel back and forth a lot more readily than those that are living in the world going, only the physical stuff I see is real. That's the only stuff that adds up. People that die with that thought in their head have a much harder time coping with that transitional period. Okay, so what we have to remember when you're talking, yeah, it's just a thought on my part, but when you're talking to people, especially if they look up to you, about the facts of the spiritual world, absolutely do your best to ensure that your kids realize this is part of the natural order. It is a transition between life and death. Okay. Yeah, and in all fairness there, Kimberly, like Kimberly, you know, Kimberly is just mentioning that when you talk to a spirit, okay, tell them a story. Come right out and say, hey, look, you're having trouble touching this physical stuff. Because, well, frankly, sir, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you're dead. You don't have a physical body to work with. Now, like the show Ghost, starring Patrick Swayze proved, okay, or rather insinuated, if you will. Can a ghost learn how to affect the physical world? The answer is yes. Okay, it does take time, and time is a little screwy. Okay, because remember, over there, a day is as 1,000 years. Okay, now for most people, that's a bit of a complication. For Laborians, their physical day is as 1,000 years. So when they turn around and go over, they look at the world going, this is just normal. So they don't have the same transitional problem. What we got here? Let's see. Yeah, Kimberly's just going, I send trapped souls to the light if they're stuck. Sad to see they were lost, but so grateful I helped them. Absolutely. And, that's a lost soul, one that cannot figure out what happened, which quite often happens during an aneurysm or a massive vehicle accident, where it's like one moment they're alive, the next moment they're gone. Even people that are shot unexpectedly have the same complication. Okay, where they don't necessarily realize they passed away. So that the window that we talk about, that white light portal, it's only there for a short period of time. Okay, and if they miss that, they're stuck on this side without the ability to effectively communicate with most people. So they're wandering around, pulling their hair out, as it were, trying to make some sort of contact. And this is just the way that the world works for them. I'm just looking at this. Malu's just made a comment here. F autocorrect. I hear so many people complain about autocorrect, myself included. But I'm looking at it, it's like, I doubt anybody's going to pick up on that, because that is something that the programmers of the autocorrect didn't take into consideration. It's a pain in the neck, absolutely. Oh, absolutely, Malu. The nice thing there, Malu, if if you email it, we will certainly take a look at it and give you an answer to what we're looking to, whatever question you got tagged with it. Whatever you do, don't forget to write the questions with it if you've got them. Okay. And we'll see what we can do. I'm a firm believer that, frankly, this is information that is required. Okay, and there are way too many people that claim to be mediums that, frankly, shouldn't claim it. Now, I'm going to have something absolutely stupid here in most people's eyes. But, Malu, you made this memories FF dead. What, pray tell, does the FF stand for? Okay, no, I am not fluent in, in the short versions on, on the internet, nor am I fluent, if you will, in virtually every other language. I mean, if we think about human or English, I stumble around a lot. Okay, but ghosts themselves, what happens is when somebody dies, they become a ghost. The soul leaves the physical body, and because it no longer has an attachment, it becomes qualified as a ghost. Oh, well, here's the nice little part. Oh, um, here, I'll put that back in there, hopefully. Copy that. This was the statement that was made. The difficult part there, Malu, where it comes to talking to a trained psychiatrist, trained psychologist, is most of them do not accept the world beyond. Hey, Shadow, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The reality of it is you've got to find people that are willing to actually accept the fact that what you're going through, that what you've borne witness to, is potentially real. Okay, because I will tell you, when you've got somebody saying, hey, I've had something like that. Carlito, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Hope your day's been going well. Oops, I think they call that overeating. I'm not sure. I've run into that before, but it happens so rarely that I overeat that it's just absolutely bizarre. So, I mean, when we look at the whole side of it, when we look at what is going on with this world, okay, we have to realize, or it would be wise to accept, that the changes that are taking place, it's not that the veil between the worlds is getting weaker. It's that people are becoming more open to it. And therefore, that belief that it's possible is making it easier to penetrate the barrier. Okay. It's much like people are now accepting more and more that UFOs and ancient races are really legitimately there. Okay. And because of that, because they are legitimately there, okay, more people are looking up, are opening their minds to the possibility of these things occurring. And net result, it becomes an open door. The funny thing there, Adam, is most psychologists, I read that wrong. How does possession fall into the ghost topic? Sometimes a ghost, it's kind of like hijacking and like carjacking. Okay, sometimes the ghost will figure out how to take control of the wheel of your vehicle. Net result, possession. Okay. Now it takes a certain amount of will on the actual owner's possession to actually evict the jacker on its own. Okay, but basically what they do is they spot an opening in the etheric shell and enter the body. Okay, thereby gaining access and subsequently fighting for control. Some, very few, very, very, very few, some people that develop multiple personality, it's because they've got that kind of a battle going on. But do understand something. That is a tiny majority or tiny minority of people that have that issue. Okay, when we take a look at multiple personality disorder, we are not talking about, oh, you're MPD, you're possessed. That is not the way it works. Okay, the odds are very good that if you're dealing with somebody that's multiple personality, you're dealing with somebody that has a serious physical misfire in their brain. Yeah, Carlino, whether we are talking human, alien as in off-world, ancient race, or human, non-human, plant, animal, mineral, element, elemental pocket. None of it matters. It all applies the same way. Okay, these are just different shells that we're talking about. The ghost itself is the life force of whatever corporeal body they were inhabiting. Okay, that's how that fits in. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. But we're looking at a world where ghosts are part of the everyday life. What can you do when someone has multiple personalities? Well, I will tell you this. First and foremost, do understand if they have true multiple personalities, many of those personalities will not know of the others. Okay. The one thing you have to realize is if they're not willing to accept they've got multiples, then you can't do a lot with it. Because it boils down to you gotta get their attention first. If you get their attention, for the first thing you do is find out whether they believe or whether they know they are multiple. Okay, what the people in that community refer to as a system. Okay, this is a very real situation. But if they're not willing to accept, first of all, that they do have more than one personality going on, okay, you're going to have a hard time doing much of anything with it because it is a cooperative effort. Okay, the thing you do at that point is fun. Like I'm actually dealing with one periodically where it was really kind of neat. Okay, they were having trouble communicating and they knew they had a whole pile of people. Okay, it was like a school bus with a whole bunch of screaming kids in it. And once I talked to them and explained how to communicate with the rest of the party, all of a sudden things started to smooth out and they are getting better. Okay, I remember one thing that you can, the other thing you can do where it comes to helping a multiple personality, find out each personality's like or dislike. Okay, I remember one situation where there was the normal person, like the primary, if you will. There was an absolutely violent teenager and a wreck of an emotional basket case of a child. Well, I managed to get them all working together, and the physical person had dominant time. Okay. The physical person had dominant time. So they had to run the house, and the others, I told them, look, she's got to do the driving if you guys want to make any headway. But then I arranged through the primary for the volatile teenager to get time down the gym in mixed martial arts. And I managed to get the little one, the 5-year-old, time to finger paint. Okay. And yes, we did get her worked out so she would do her own finger painting. Of course, in all fairness, she started off by using ketchup and mustard. And then the primary had come to, and it's like, why is all this all over the floor? She wouldn't remember doing the takeover. Okay. But you give each personality that you can identify, find out what they really like doing. And many of them will go, well, we don't like this, we don't like that, we don't like this. That's fine, you don't like that, but I need to know what you do like. And then you arrange with the primary, getting some quality time for that individual. Thank you so much for joining us there, Kimberly. You have a good rest. You can certainly catch up on the rest of this when you wake up again. You know, but the thing you can do with virtually everybody, with virtually anybody that is suffering from a tag on, see, there's a very big difference between a multiple personality and a hijacker. Okay, there's also something called a walk in, and that is when the original soul has said, okay, I've got to have a body until I'm 20. But at 20 years old, I don't want any more of it. I'm done. I'm going to move on to something else. But they arrange time with a second soul that will come in and pick up the payments, as it were, on the physical body. And this is when you see massive shifts in personality. Okay, sometimes good, sometimes for worse. But that depends on the soul taking over. Okay, so again, these are all interlocked. Okay, now when we look at the other side of this, or the enhanced side of it, if you will, ghosts can die. Okay, once you're dead and you become a ghost, this does not mean that this does not mean that the world is going to be, is going to stay on that path. Okay, if you become a ghost, there is the possibility of running into something or someone that can actually push you backwards. But what they do there, okay, whoever that was, thank you so much for the thumbs up. I really appreciate it. The reality of it is that when a soul takes over, okay, there is a swap over. Oh, thank you so much, sir Shadow. I do appreciate it. I gotta do something about why my throat is as tight as it is. Can't do anything about it right now, so I'm just not going to. Okay, I'm wondering if I'm pushing it a little hard as far as the projection goes. But when we are looking at ghosts, are ghosts a real thing? The first answer that we look at is absolutely yes. Yeah, the reality is there, Shadow, from my end, like my own son has just gotten over the cold. This isn't a cold thing, because my chest is fine. Oh, and rest assured, I know when I'm getting sick. Only I tend to, but I do appreciate the extra insight there. Thank you so much for that, Christine. Fortunately, I'm actually not getting sick. I feel better than I have in years. Okay. And especially with a neat little revelation that came to me the other day. I do appreciate that little piece of information there, YJ. Hey, Christy, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I didn't actually see you come in earlier, so I'm presuming you've been sitting in the background here. But absolutely, thank you for making yourself known. Okay, the thing I really have to point out to you guys, and I know I've done it before, but thank you so much for joining me, for sharing your time with me. This is not just about me being here. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking I should probably cook today, but I did actually surprise the daylights out of my son yesterday and ended up cooking him. And for me, this is a big stretch, really. But my son he's been with me for 10 years, like living in our house for 10 years. And I have been dealing with primarily one pot dishes, enough to keep him healthy, enough to keep him safe. But I surprised the daylights out of him by literally doing something about as simple as you can get, as in fish sticks and a side of vegetables. But for him, it was like, I mean, it was almost like I got him a bowl of caviar, given that he likes caviar. He's never tried it, to the best of my knowledge. See, I always, Kim, Christy's, and where are we here? Yeah, Christine has just said she's cooking too, making chicken, rice, and veggies. Now, I don't know about you, but I usually let the adult chickens make the chicken. I'll deal with it after the fact. Yeah, I don't have much in the way of sauces around the house. Of course, in all fairness, you think about it, 30 years with virtually cooking nothing doesn't leave a lot of backup. Okay, I mean, that's just the reality behind it. Now, that's going out on a stretch for me. Never, ever have I even, I've only had lobster, I think, twice in my life. Never have I bothered even attempting to cook it. Because, frankly, I wouldn't know where to begin. Okay. And no, I'm not about to go and start cooking it anyway, because I know it's got to be cooked live. And I'm just not that interested. Nice, YJ. YJ goes, I just ate, but I'm coming over anyway. I mean, I would love to see that sort of thing happen. People that are meeting online, getting to meet each other face to face and putting a face to the name. I mean, years ago when the BBSs were the primary way of communicating, there was a local one in town here called the Fringe, and we eventually there were 8 or 10 of us that were in there regularly that eventually decided to meet in person. Oh, you never cook bugs in just butter and garlic. Okay, if you're going to get bugs, you gotta cover them in something else. Okay, now I will tell you this: if you cook them properly, okay, you stir them into some sort of a thick sauce, it'll work out a little better for you. Okay, I know a lot of people go, "Oh, let's try chocolate covered grasshoppers." I'm going like, let's not. Deep fried grasshoppers I can work with, or fried grasshoppers. I don't like the chocolate. Okay. And it's funny, there are times where it comes to ghosts, and some of you may have run into this, where a ghost will be drawn by the aroma of your cooking. Okay. It's just that simple. That's just it, YJ. Potlucks used to be a norm. Okay. I'm thinking you bring a campfire to my house, we may have a problem. I live in an apartment. They complain when you light your apartment on fire. Like the neighbors do, I mean. I absolutely agree there, YJ. This idea of communities getting together, meeting, whether it's at your house, at a park, whatever. I would love to see more and more of this take place. But I've noticed recently that now that we've gotten past COVID, there's another couple of viruses out there going, oh, these are more deadly than the last one, and stay away from each other. I'm telling you, living in fear is not working. Okay. That was very nice of you there, Adam. So whose wife did you decide you were going to treat? The reality of it, from my standpoint, is very simple. Okay. The more we spend time with each other, communicating as a community. Number one, The more you know the people around you, the less likely there is to be a crime spree in your neighborhood via the locals. Okay, doesn't guarantee it. Some areas are just the people there that are drawn there are just naturally volatile. Okay, but in lesser crime related areas, knowing who your neighbors are, as in being able to actually talk to them when you see them, what you find out is that there is less conflict and thereby lower crime rates. Okay, now there is the other issue here, especially if you've got ghosts in the area that are there because of violence. They may get more agitated if there is violence going on. I remember that when I was growing up. Like, I grew up in Comox. I was just saying, back in Hungary, it's not unusual for people to walk into their neighbor's house and sit down and have dinner with them. Okay. Now, curiosity there, YJ. I didn't try the farmer's market. I used to work through a flea market. But at the farmer's market, and it's just a curiosity thing here, but you just said you're getting ready to participate in it this year. Okay. Any idea what you're going to be dealing and what you're going to be selling there? Like I said, that's curiosity on my part. By the way, the more people you have around you, okay, when you've got groups of people gathering around, the more likely you are to find ghosts hanging around as well. Primarily because, well, let's face it, if you're the only one there, okay, if you're the only one to talk to, then you may not notice the ghost because maybe they've just become so common around you, you don't sense them. Okay, you go to a crowded place where people are talking and milling about, everybody may have a ghost around them. But because there's so many of them there too, there is some cross current, some interaction. And sometimes your ghost will introduce my ghost to you and vice versa. Okay, it becomes a real spiritually involved community event. Okay, I know when I was growing up, my parents were block parents as well as everything else, and it was normal. We'd get home and it's like, okay, there were actually 8 kids in the family, right? Five blood relatives, 1 adopted sister, and 2 foster sisters. And it was normal to come home and we'd find 30 or 40 kids in the backyard, right? That were just back there playing baseball. Oh, okay. I misread that, YJ. I thought you said I thought it read I'm selling survival equipment, mostly fire making and water purification stuff. Okay. And with that in mind, now I'm going to drop I think I've got your email. Just in case, YJ, I've got a proposition for you, and no, it's nothing abnormal. It's not anything weird. Hey, Jenny, how you doing? Glad you could join us. If you can, YJ, if you can drop me a email just in case I don't have yours, I do have a proposition I'd like to drop in your lap. Okay. And is it going to make you rich? No, it ain't going to make me rich either. Okay. But it may be a viable option. Okay. It's just one of those things I'm looking at. But if you'd be kind enough to drop me a line, that would be great. Okay. Well, that's just it, YJ. The odds of a flea market making you rich, not really good. Unless we qualify rich as meeting a whole bunch of really fascinating people and sharing different ideas so you get a whole pile of communication lines going on. Okay. If you count that as being rich, then absolutely it is something that can be done. Okay. It's absolutely something that can work out. Thank you so much, YJ. I'll check for it after I get done the stream. Okay. The reality of it is this. When we're looking at, and again, I do want to stay sort of focused in a sort of fashion. Now remember, Philip, you're not allowed to mix those up in chocolate. Only in a nice little stir fry or a thick sauce. Okay. And I will tell you, if you can get a dozen fleas, if you can get a mated pair, you can have fleas coming out the eyeballs. Okay. But whatever you do, make sure you get a circus. Okay. That way they've got something to do so they're not bored either. When we take a look at things, the reality of it is the ghosts are all over the place. Okay, and the reason we physically don't see them is because they are vibrating at such a high pace that it's almost impossible to spot them. Okay, and you'll notice I said almost. Now, most ghosts, if they're striving to make contact, it's not for malicious reasons. Okay, usually it's because they feel something was left either unsaid or unfinished, or there is something missing. Okay. Hey Nathan, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Oops. Hey, now what I should, we can go into a lot of really, shall we say, adult versions on what happened to the bed, but let's not do that. Okay. Now, Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've got a show on tonight at 7 o'clock, at 9 o'clock, Mountain, no, not Mountain Central, is it not? As in 7 o'clock Pacific. Oh, speaking of which, where is that fine little thing of mine? That one there. Nathan. Oh, we did that earlier. We actually tossed your link up just a little while ago. Perfect, Nathan. Thank you so much. And since I'm thinking of it, and since I'm the one that brought it up, let's do this. This is Nathan's show. Now, of course, obviously it's not in conflict with ours. Okay, because, we get finished about 6:30. But why don't you drop by Nathan's show afterwards? See what he's got to talk about. He's got usually some really intriguing conversations. Really intriguing concepts. Drop in, listen to what he's got to say. If you like his message, absolutely give him a thumbs up and do subscribe to his channel. Okay. This is where we turn around and go, okay, look, when I said that working together we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. That includes the ghosts, the disembodied peoples. Okay, the people without a vehicle. And I'm referring to on all fronts, whether we are talking corporeals, humans, ancient races, aliens, animals, plants, ghosts, spirits, you name it. Each and every one of these are part and parcel of everybody. Okay. Now, I just want to check something here. I'm not going very far. Actually, I'm not going very far at all. Over here, tomorrow is Sunday. What do I got listed for Sunday? Right. Just wanted to see what I had on the schedule just because. Tomorrow is Sunday, so of course, when I come on tomorrow, right, I'm just going to run with an open topic. So come with whatever questions from whatever topic we're looking at, and drop in on that note. Okay. Oh, there we go. Yeah, as soon as I see an answer to that, Shadow, I will, or Nathan, I will show that I will share that as well. Because fortunately, I'm happy to say we have a lot more listeners than what I've got listed as subscribers. What am I doing here? Let's just refresh that. And again, if you're just joining us and you haven't subscribed to the channel, if you'll be kind enough to do so, that would be greatly appreciated. Okay, right now, like we're fluctuating a little, which is normal. It's seldom a straight climb. Oh, just a thought there, Nathan. Something to just think about. You might want to look at choosing what you desire, not choosing what you want. And the reason for that is when you go, I want such and such, you're creating the energy of lack, of the energy of want. Okay. And this is one of the fundamental things when I looked at the book that came out, The Secret. That is one of the critical flaws that they reinforce time and again. That you talk about what you want, but when you talk about what you want, you talk about what you don't have and what you desire. The universe hears you desire to feel a lack of this issue. Okay, I want $1 million in my pocket. Bad idea because I still don't have it. Okay, it's still not there. However, remember when I mentioned that I have no clue how to go marketing? Well, here's the reality of it. Okay, in 5 years, the company I was working with managed to sell 4 books. In the last week and a half, I've managed to sell, and sorry, they sold 5 books in 4 years. 5 books in 1 year, in 5 years. I've managed to sell 4 in a week and a half. So apparently I've got a bizarre idea. Okay. Yeah, and that's absolutely, that's an excellent topic there, Nathan. And you should get a fair turnout on that one. Quite frankly, I would quite readily encourage the people that are hearing this now, and I've just put Nathan's link up above here. Okay. If you're in the chat room, absolutely follow the link. If you're not in the chat room, the link you're looking for is www.youtube.com/@quantum-show. Okay, 2022. Okay, go and take a look at it. Listen what the guy has to say. He's got some really neat topics he works with. Uh-oh, that sounds like Shadow's busy now. Where are we here? We are right now at... Where are we? We are right now at 10 to 6. So in about 40 minutes, we're done here. Okay. And then after that, frankly, I'm just at home puttering around anyway. So it depends on things. But for the moment, I do have some time, but we're going to see how that goes. I will certainly drop in to listen to how things go down there. Because even if I'm busy, I can do that. Okay, and I know I've got some really hectic schedules all the time at this point. Oh, way to go. Yeah, Shadow's just saying he's going live in 30 minutes talking about psychic powers in role-playing games. AKA psionics. Okay. And I mean, I love the way they did psionics. That's one of those neat little things that we look at. Yeah, that is something my getting out of the house is fun, but that's something that I've been told by a couple of people That's where I've got to get to, is start getting out to locals, start getting out to flea markets. And I was given, it's neat, a friend of mine from back in Saskatchewan, he is coming out in the summer and wants me to get him a whole pile of these, and of the Yldrbac Chronicles. Okay, he's going to come out and pick them up, and then take them and get them into the local bookstores and what have you. From the standpoint of, they go there, and then he goes and sells them. When he's got them sold, I get through. And the way that we're working out the contract is this. Okay, they sell at $40, but with no cost to him, aside from he's coming out anyway. Send the books to the bookstore. They sell them for $40. I get 30 of it. They get 10 of it. This means I'm making a profit and still have enough money to reprint. They're making a profit with no functional risk to them. Okay. That can make a lot of money. Just be careful how you plan it out. And remember, YJ, if you decide to do that, make certain you set the boundaries that you're content with. Obviously, they have to follow whatever the government says. Other than that, you're the boss. Okay. So make certain it fits the bill that you desire. Okay. Where are we here? Nathan is saying maybe this. Separate 5 copies now. Put an ad on Facebook Marketplace since you're puttering around right now. Yeah, my son actually suggested I talk to my ex about getting them listed on Marketplace, on the Facebook Marketplace. And again, this is something I've got to start pushing because, well, let's face it, I don't have an income. I do, however, have 7 books in print. And is that which is the sheet? Watch this, I moved it someplace. Probably did. Where did I put that list? This is something else I'm going through. All these sheets and all these little lists that I put together that I'm now having to go back through and go, okay, what the heck did I do with them? So I will clear those off. But, yeah, I'm looking at that, and that's not a bad move. What do we got here? Yeah, Nathan's saying, Facebook Marketplace takes negligible effort to make happen. And this is just it. It's not a question of I not desiring to put the effort in. It's not knowing a whole lot about where to do it. But things are starting to happen. Okay. And this is where the real kicker to it comes in. But in a nutshell, it boils down to making certain I've got the books available for print, available to move, and then getting it visible. Because let's face it, the best tools, the best books in the world are absolutely useless if you do not have, they are absolutely totally useless if you do not have, they're totally useless if they aren't picked up by anybody. Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing, Nathan. All 7 of the books that I have are in print and in stock. Okay. As it turns out, I've got one in that I've got at the printers already, that they've already looked at, that hasn't been put together, but I've got ISBN numbers for all of them. Now, that's an interesting idea. If I take a look, and that's not a bad idea, really. if I take a look at just the birth of the wolf pack, and no, I'm not going to read it right now, but that's not an entirely bad move. That's the foreword, the introduction. Let's just take a look at how long the first chapter itself actually is. I think it might tell me right there. Yeah, the first chapter is, to say the least, a little on the lengthy side. The prologue is, well, the prologue is actually only one page. You know, the prologue for the birth of the wolf pack is only the one page. If I look at chapter 1, I believe it's like 20 pages long. It's a bit of a drawn out one. Yeah, chapter 1 itself is a pretty fair length. The prologue for Birth of the Wolf Pack is actually only one page, which is not too terribly bad of a run. Okay, where are we here? Yeah. Now, that being said, I could technically do that right this moment as far as the prologue goes. I've still got half an hour before I'm shutting down. Goes a little outside of where I was starting, but let's face it. I start off with a topic and we see where it goes from there. Okay, but if you guys want to hear the prologue, I can do that. It's only a one-page deal. Am I a professional reader? Absolutely not. Okay, do I stumble over my own words? Well, you figure that one out. You've heard me talk. Yeah. Funny thing there, Star, is I have no idea. Like, I do know how to get a video. Sometimes it works. Sometimes not so much so with this computer. But as far as editing computer or editing the show or adding things to it, that is outside of my technical ability. Okay. It's an absolute shambles from that end. Okay. But these are all great ideas as far as that goes. Yeah, right. That's a wonderful thought there, YJ. YJ just goes, and if you could convince Morgan Freeman to narrate the first chapter, that'd be a retirement right there. Yeah, just based on him reading it. Yeah, start just coming. I mean, live is fine, but start and end with only reading with. Oh, okay. I understand what you're referring to there. Come on live, go, I'm doing this reading, end it, and then start another one as far as that goes, to actually do a live feed. I presume this is what you're referring to, Star? You know, because that is an easy one to do. Because I know with the live feed, I can come online and go, here's what I'm doing, get it set, and get it, just do the reading and shut it down. Ah, perfect. No, that actually makes very serious sense, and that one I can do. Okay, as a matter of fact, it's kind of about as it's almost as from my end. That's the best time to do it. But that is an excellent idea, Star. So I do believe I'm going to take you up on that suggestion. Get that out of my way. I was looking for my pen here. Because tomorrow I'm running, because I've got a game tomorrow. Okay, I've got my D&D game tomorrow. And that one I'm not canceling until such time as I drop dead and a half, or my game master does. But that is an absolute excellent idea. If I finish the game, which usually finishes around about 3 o'clock or so, do a live reading of the prologue for just that, read just the prologue. Okay. And then shut it down, then open up the open forum for 4:30, just like normal. That would work beautifully. That is an absolutely fabulous idea that I can actually work with. So, unless you've got a terrible objection to it, I'm going to take it. Yeah. Yeah, and see, the problem with the video upload is that the computer often complains. That is one heck of an idea. This is why I've told people I don't really know much about marketing. I've guided people through doing their own, but it's a case of telling them, look, you've got to get visible. And that's always been my held up. I'll tell you, if I'd have thought about it, I'd have done this, 5 years ago when I started relying on other geniuses that decided they were going to take my money and not do a dang thing for me. Yeah, I've got a computer that every time you look at it cross-eyed, it falls apart. I remember having one computer that was just twisted. I got frustrated with it, and it physically threw up the guts of its 3.5-inch drive. I'll tell you, that startled the computer hardware tech that was sitting beside it. Because, physical hard drives aren't supposed to spit things out, especially not their own guts. Yeah, and that ultimately, if I can get that to happen, well, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Okay. So yeah, in fact, what I'll do, and I don't, what I can do, because that's an excellent idea, because I'm looking at running open forum on Sundays because there's a lot of questions that come up that people come up with. And if I just leave that forum open, but do a half-hour feed or however it longs to read a chapter out of the varying books. Now, of course, I will tell you, this one, well, gravity works. When I take a look at these ones, at the children's stories, I can't exactly read a chapter. Okay, because in all fairness, that would mean reading the whole book. Like Mr. Dreamcatcher is only 11 pages. And if you take a look at it, right, if we take a look at, when I'm talking 11 pages, we're talking that much writing on a page. Okay, and yeah, here's the thing. The artwork there is actually my artwork using paint. Not an artist I would write positive things about. But no, it's an excellent idea. And when I look at it, where the heck is the cover? There's the cover. Let's pop those back in. The chapter side of it is great because I can do that with the Yldrbacian feed, the Yldrbacian books, and I can read pages out of Races of the Worlds, as well as the Believe in Yourself series. YJ's just going, in the old days as kids, we used to put a grilled cheese sandwich in the VCR to kill it. That's not even nice. I knew people that used to do that with what was it, with chocolate pudding. Okay. Or I knew one kid that actually did that with porridge. I will tell you this, it works like a charm. In the VCR to kill it. These days the computer system just pukes and has a hazy fit all on its own. Well, that's just it. The other thing with computers at this point is here we have computers asking humans if humans are robots. Now, there's something wrong with this. Okay. But hey, what the heck? We live in the world we live in. But no, that is an excellent idea for them regarding the marketing. Like I said, this friend of mine he'll be out in the summer, and all he needs me to do is get him. He wants to take 50 of my Yldrbacian books and take 50 of each of them out to the bookstores in his end to turn around and set them up. And again, it's not a question of set them up for a different price for different people. It's a question of taking a gamble and going, okay, here's how many I'm shipping. Here's how many we start you off. When you've sold them, then you order more. And by doing that, they can make money with no risk. I can make enough money that I've got a profit line. Okay. And I just have to look at that and just go, doesn't matter what place I'm looking at, what store. I just go, here's what it's going to cost. I just have to make sure I'm making a decent profit off it. Now if you think about it, okay, just a real quick thought on that. And it's funny because I've got ghosts that hang around me. They'll sit here going, "Oh, you should do this or you should do that." Of course, understand many of the dead that show up at my place are agitated. So it's like, "Oh, you should go over to this guy's house and just drive the car through it." If I had one, I would. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to help you do that. Oh, that figures, Nathan. And we will catch up with you in a little while. You take care and have yourself a great show as well. I get a kick out of it. Every time I get agitated, the poor computers die. I was asked one day, aren't you afraid of computers taking over? I'm like, no. They scare me. I get panicky. They die. And then they can't do much. A buddy of mine literally cannot be seen by remote video, by remote sensors. Okay. But no, I have a lot of ghosts that come around, some of them from centuries back, that are going, like I had a lot of people that died in World War II, okay, that actually died on D-Day, that I was talking to. I'm going like, there's something wrong here. We've been told this. And yeah, you're over there because of this little problem. Half of them didn't remember how they got over there. Okay. Thank you so much there, Shadow. You have a great one and you take care. When I take a look at it, it's pretty cut and dried. Okay. There's a lot of ghosts I deal with. And understand, ghosts, when they pass away, still carry the majority of their last incarnation with them. They've got access to the others more readily than when they were alive. But most of them they primarily carry their last incarnation with them. So they still remember the people that were there that they left behind. Okay. And yes, I am working, like I actually wrote a poem at one point that was about a chap. I forget how the poem, like I can't recite the poem offhand, off the top of my head. But it was about a gentleman. He walks into the bar, kills the guy, and leaves. And when they track down the guy that did it, right, they find out the guy that walked into the bar and opened fire was already dead. He'd been murdered by the chap he shot. Needless to say, it's a bit of an off-color poem. But my poems, I never said, were straightforward. But no, see, like I've mentioned before, the fact that I get ideas like I got today, okay. No, usually it's really not there, Philip. That's the one thing with the Yldrbac Chronicles. Okay, the one area you don't see in it is I don't touch the adult interaction from a romantic standpoint. Okay, I've got a couple of spots where it's kind of hinted at, and that's where it ends. But where it comes to the combat, it can be really, really graphic. Okay, now I do have a question for you guys. When you're looking at buying a book, and yes, I am dealing with people that are like, even in the Yldrbacian Chronicles, there are interactions coming with ghosts. Okay, with people that have passed away and come back to say, hey, this is what's going on. Yeah, see, yeah, no doubt. YJ's just saying that he's got this little problem with he's got about a quarter about a quarter of the cost for a refurbished one. Sorry, a refurbished one is about a quarter of the cost of a new one, and they quite honestly work most of the time better than average. But no, the one thing, the number of ghosts that end up showing up, especially in the recent few months here, like this place in my house, is just inundated with them. But here's the thing: my house has always been an open door. If you're a ghost, if you're non-corporeal, come on in. You're more than welcome to wander in and hang around. But would you be kind enough to leave the stuff alone? Okay, because unfortunately things will go missing that just don't make sense that they went missing, but what the heck? And they'll show up in some of the silliest places available. Sometimes in really annoying time frames. But where it comes, the thing we have to realize about the spirit world, okay, is the fact that the spirit world does apply to all individuals, all life forms, whether they are sentient by human standpoint or not. If they are alive, they have a soul, and it all goes to the same place. Can a soul die? The answer is yes. But here's what happens when a ghost dies. Okay, bear in mind that as you meet your soulmate and you recombine, okay, you merge to become a higher entity. When a ghost dies, what actually happens is that you get pulled away from your soulmate and you both get sent your own directions. At that point, you're now limited, like you've now been reduced, and it may take you a number of centuries to find that soulmate again. May take you a number of lifetimes, okay, to find where that soulmate went and thereby get back to where you were. So, do souls, do spirits, do ghosts die? The answer is yeah, they absolutely do. Okay, there is no question they absolutely do die. Okay, I eventually had to kill a ghost at one point because it was the only way to convince them that killing my other half was a bad idea. They didn't agree with me until after the fact. And of course, by the time it was after the fact, that's kind of like going after you step off a high diving board and going, but I don't want to hit the water. You're pretty much out of luck. You're going to hit the water. Okay. Technically, it's possible you won't. Maybe you stepped off the wrong end and you're going to end up on the deck. I'd recommend the wet end. Of course, when we're talking about people, always shake the dry end of the guy's arm. If the arm's been torn off, don't shake the wet end. It's just gross. But ghosts themselves, the thing with ghosts is they are very real. Okay. Prime example, let's take a look at some of the critical ones that we know about. What do we got here? Yeah, exactly there, Philip. Werewolves are wonderful people. I'm actually trying to get a handle on something there because werewolves, much as they are Terianthropic, there is a race name. Okay, and there's a few of the races that are specified in Races of the Worlds are literally more descriptive than anything else. Like, for instance, just yesterday I was talking to one. What I've got listed as an Earth Elemental, their actual race is a Corridon. What do we got here? Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. The reality, Phil's just saying there is some excellent spooky fantasy erotica coming out of BC. Okay. Hey Ken, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now, do understand, all you have to do, now this sounds real easy. Ken's just asking, how do you kill a ghost? Now, understand, it's not as easy as this is going to sound, but you literally have to separate them on the spiritual side of the veil. You've got to separate them from their soulmate, essentially pulling them into two. Then you let them both go in different directions. Okay, that will render them essentially in this lifetime harmless. And those are two of the others that I am trying to get actual, because demons as in the way you spelled it there, Philip, are a construct that is actually modified by the religions. The race themselves are actually, they refer to themselves overall as daemon, which is DAMON. DAEMON. Okay, but that is not overall their race. From their standpoint, on a general term, yes, that is them. Now the vampires, who are also known as shadow walkers, have another name, but I've yet to get an answer out of them as to what to call it. They like the mystery of being called vampires and bloodsuckers, and let's be afraid of them. I never saw a point in being afraid of them. Didn't work well for me. Let's see. We've got here, Philip's just saying, one author has the protagonist start off on a bus in Vancouver and end up staying with a wolf pack called Spokane. Yeah, that's definitely local. See, when I wrote the Yldrbac Chronicles, okay, it's based in Kenilworth. Okay, now if you take a look at the spelling, it was literally built around Kelowna, with such cities as Venron, what is it now? Then we've got Venron, which is up north. Okay, I've modified the names, but if you go around it, you can see much of the location. Okay, well, where are we going here? That's it. Yeah. Ultimately, that's what I stumbled over, because I was trying to remember it, trying to look at it in my head. Didn't work that well. So that should be, actually, I've got to correct the spelling on it, but it should be Pectin and Pectinton. Okay. Yeah, it was. My parents lived there for the longest time before they finally got around to passing away. In my dad's case, it was his 10th time over by the time he finally passed. Like, he had flatlined a staggering number of times. This is one of the reasons why I learned how to communicate well with ghosts. People around me kept dropping dead and then coming back. My parents and my family, between my father, my mother, and both of my eldest brothers, who are now both passed away permanently, and myself, between us, before my second oldest brother passed away in 2010, we had 27 fatal heart attacks between the five of us. And Mom didn't hold up her end. She only had two fatal heart attacks right before she died. Before she died on the third one. But no, the neat part about it is, and Joe, who comes in here quite often, I haven't seen him today. I think he was in a little earlier. He's got a perfect environment because he's got a graveyard right outside his house. that he gets to take a look, that he gets to watch what's going on. And rest assured, people that tell me that graveyards are quiet don't see ghosts. It's funny. I was over there one day, and a friend of mine wanted to have a spiritual experience. So it was like, okay, let's go to the gravesite. Let's go to the graveyard. Went over there on a full moon, and he didn't believe I saw spirits, right, at the time. He just heard I was a little weird because we had only just met. So we're sitting there, and he looks at me and he goes, "What was that I just saw in the corner?" I says, "You mean the one that started in the corner and went three tombstones over and then disappeared again?" He goes, "You do see them." I went, "Well, yeah, but that's what you're referring to." And he goes, "Yeah, but why would it end there?" I says, "Well, I've got my suspicions, but let's go take a look." Right. So we went over, and as it turned out, when we got poking around with the information, as it turned out, the graveside, what I told him was he was going over to visit whoever it was. Well, as it turned out, we were dealing with a chap that had died, and 3 tombstones over was his former girlfriend, who unfortunately had died in the same accident. So it's like, okay, well, my guess is they're going to have some fun, but they're not going to spend a whole lot of time sleeping. At least not by my definition of sleep. But ghosts, ironically enough, even though they're physically dead, ghosts are extremely active individuals a lot of the time. And they can be absolutely fantastic, fantastic friends. Hey, Gordana, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Let's see here. Philip says, "I haven't been yet. Before I was born, my great-grandmother brought my great-grandmother to a nice summer camp in yeah, it's actually the actual place there, Philip, is Penticton. Big deal because that grandma was practically a hermit. She enjoyed it, yeah. And this is pretty much my issue. Is I stay away from people a lot of the time. Okay. And of course, with the amount of negativity that I say that I run into out there a lot of the time, I'm looking at it going, is there really a functional reason to get out of my house right now? And the answer is not really. And I have to make a note of that. That should be Pectinton. I gotta check the spelling on that to make sure I get it right. But no, when we're looking at this whole ghost phenomenon, understand 99% of the ghosts or better they're either there because they can't figure out how they got there, as in they died too fast to register and just missed the doorway and just need help to get there, or they're there trying to reconnect, trying to make sure something that was left undone or unsaid got passed on. There are only a tiny percentage or partial percentage or whatever you want to call it, okay, of the ghosts that are actually volatile. Now, the house that the Amityville Horror was filmed in is an active ghost site, and the people there are nasty. Okay, they are literally a violent crew, but that doesn't mean they can't be dealt with. Okay, it's sort of one of those things I've always looked at and gone, it really wouldn't be that bad to walk through. It's kind of like the idea of going to Alcatraz. A lot of ghosts hang around in Alcatraz, hang around in the old abandoned psychiatric wards. Okay. And some of those people are completely off their nut still because of what was done to them. But we have to realize that when when I'm talking about this idea of working together, of all of us working together, that includes the physical people and the ghosts, not to mention a whole slew of others. Okay. But ghosts themselves have, if you will, they've got a lifespan. And here's essentially what their lifespan boils down to. In human terms, they are on average, they are done being a ghost for approximately 70 years. Okay. 70 of our years. That's about their lifespan over there. And then they find, but it's that time spent laying out their next life and figuring out how they're going to work it. So it's, I mean, if you think school's bad here, okay, kids get up, you start school at kindergarten, you work your way through 13 years going to school, okay, working on things, and then you strive to get on with your life. Almost 70 years of that entire time you're over and that you're dead. Ghosts are in the middle of learning not how to be dead, but how to live. Now, my goal, and this is one of those things I'm really going to turn around and push at this point, my goal is simple. Help people understand not how to die, but how not to fear death and how to live. Okay, which is why I am starting to push the issue, because I'll tell you, the last thing in the world I want to actually worry about is having to go to work for somebody else again. But for me, as it turns out, well, let's see. EI hasn't come through because my boss mixed up the ROE. Yeah. And honestly, Philip, when I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I make a point of watching that show. Yeah, she did. She worked with, I remember one the other day I was watching. She had a guy that was literally, he was so mad, he was trying to kill people to get even. Not a nice way of doing things. But, I mean, let's face it, especially when a person ends up as a ghost from a violent action that they were not aware of, as it were. Quite honestly, why does that not surprise me there, Philip? Philip just said, by the way, the background score in the show was composed by the same musician as the X-Files. And here's the thing. Carpenter, the guy who originally directed the X-Files, I think it was directed or produced, is one of the few people that actually knows what's going on in the metaphysical world, where it comes to ghosts, where it comes to aliens. He is one of the few that actually knows. Okay. I'm suspecting that's the guy that wrote the score, Mark Snow. The neat part about it from my end is anytime you start dealing with, like, one of the best ghost shows I saw that pretty much said it all was the show Ghost, starring Patrick Swayze. And I forget who the actress was. But it did a really nice job of laying out the way it works. Where some people are upset, and yes, ghosts can get into very serious complications. Okay, just like people can dig themselves into a bit of a mess, so can a ghost. But the problem is ghosts have even more restrictions than people do. That, I suspect that my other half, who has one she's a professional flautist. Okay, she hasn't done a whole lot with it. But my other half is a professional flautist. She's been trained, in a lot of very professional schools. Now I just got to get her to the point where she's actually comfortable enough to do so in front of people. What do we got here? Hey, Joe, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I hope your day has been going well. You know, we're looking at a world that is changing very quickly. Now, I've just noticed something, guys. Talk about getting a little sidetracked. Anyway, I will be back again tomorrow, and like I said, because of what's come up today, I'll do a short feed before the live at 4:30. Okay, and I will start with the whole idea of reading the prologue, possibly chapter 1, depending on how that goes. Okay, prior to the live feed to the live feed tomorrow, and that'll be an open topic. Well, to start with, she did get trained in a school. Okay, but yeah, many times it boils down to getting one-on-one. You got to remember, in my other half's case, she's also blind. Okay, so it did take a certain amount of modification in the way she was doing things. Thank you so much there, Adam. We are going to bring this to a close. Thank you so much for joining me today. Absolutely appreciate you sharing your time with me, and thanks so much for the help, especially in the marketing department. You guys are fantastic. I will be back again tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.